Welcome back to Flint Creek Transport. My name is Justin. I'm here beside a Kenworth W900. This is one of our trucks. This is truck 143. Believe it or not, this truck is, do you want to guess how many years old this truck is? This truck is a 1999 truck. It doesn't look like a 1999, but it's a 1999 truck. We kind of went through and redid a lot of this truck, painted the frame, painted the cab, and got looking good. But this truck has been a great truck. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about buying a used truck. Stay tuned. So kind of why I wanted to make this video is because buying a new truck is almost impossible. There are starting to be a few more new trucks out there, but they're still very rare. Most of the choices that you have is a used truck. So either you buy a used truck or you don't get a truck at all if you want to update your truck. I'm looking at replacing some trucks, so I'm in the market for a used truck, specifically a glider. But there's lots of used trucks out there in the market. The prices are high right now. But if you're looking for a truck, no matter what brand, these are some things that you want to keep an eye for. Number one is the engine. You got to be careful with what engine these trucks have in. And I will say that every fleet maintains their trucks differently than others. There are some fleets that will maintain their trucks every 40,000 miles or every 30 or 40,000 miles. They do long service intervals. You got to be careful with some of those. I wouldn't recommend getting some of those trucks. You're going to have a lot more issues. It just seems dirty oil. It creates a lot of problems. So look at what engine is in that truck. If I'm in the market for a truck, I'm going pre-emission. I would say if you're buying a used truck, I wouldn't buy a truck with emissions without warranty. So if you're buying an emission engine truck, you definitely want warranty. You know, maybe in that 250,000 mile range, you find a truck. I wouldn't go much higher than that. I have my trucks. They're not going to be out of warranty when I buy them, but when I sell them, but they're almost going to be out of warranty. So I'm going to be selling a day cab, and it's going to have maybe 20,000 miles or so left on warranty. Just the way everything worked out, that's where we're ending up at. Again, I'm getting rid of that truck. I'm not buying it. Maybe this video is going to kind of shoot me in the foot a little bit, but I'm giving you where, hey, this is an emission engine truck and I'm getting rid of it. Not that we had many issues with it, but it's at the point, that is the point where you're going to start having issues at that anywhere 300,000 miles a little early, but I would say 400, 500, 600,000 miles, you're going to start having issues with these emission engine trucks. And that's where it can become very, very frustrating. You can literally put people out of business if you're not careful. The emission engine truck that we had, the 2016 that we leased from Ryder, we rented from Ryder for like a 4-year or 5-year, that one was in the shop for it probably right around 6 months of its life. In the shop, waiting on parts, waiting on a rebuild, waiting on this, waiting on that. It was frustration. And at the end of the day, I'm still making the payment on it, still had to pay the lease payments, so they gave me another truck, but it was still frustrating. Engine, you really want to watch. You want to do service records, check service records, check some of those things. What's been done to the truck. Has the truck been rebuilt in the past? Those are just good things to look at. So a lot of dealers, if you're buying a pre-emission engine truck or a used truck, they will not actually change the oil on it till you see it. But you still got to be careful because that doesn't say a whole lot. They can still tweak the oil or whatever. And at the end of the day, they want to sell you a truck, so they're going to do what they can to sell you that truck. One of the first things what I do is when I find the truck that I like to just go over the truck myself. I like to hear it run. Rather than bring the salesman out. The salesmen, some of them are just salesmen. The ones I dealt with so far have been great, but what happens, they tell you all the things that you don't really need to know yet. I like to go through and look at the things for myself. I get the basics from them. I know that, hey, this is the truck that I has a possibility of coming into our fleet. So I'm gonna go out, look at it, and I want to do the determination of whether it's a good or bad truck myself. Sometimes what happens is if they tell you, hey, the brakes are, you know, 90%, this and that we did, well, then you don't really tend to look at those things. But it's still good to check all those things out, because there's some of those parts they only replaced maybe a few of them, or not, you know, they only did a part brake job. So engine, again, engine is a good one. What engine are you buying? The engine that I recommend is a pre-emission engine, even before the ACERT. So that means a 5EK, 6TS, 2WS, 6NZ, 1LW. There's a bunch of engines in there. Basically, they range from 96, 97 up until about 2002. Those are the engines that I would recommend buying. They are the most reliable engines. And then the ACERT engines are a good engine. It's just you won't get as good fuel economy with those engines. And then you have, there's Detroit is a great engine. Cummins, again, it's okay engine. You will have more issues with Cummins, just with injectors and things like that. Service records, all those things are good to know when buying a used truck. Now, other things to look for, just right off the bat, that can tell you a lot about a truck. How many trinkets and gadgets are on the truck, just from a distance? How many trinkets and gadgets and this and that are on the truck, and how well has it been maintained? A lot of times you can see stuff, you know, there's stuff that's falling apart. There's things that are kind of, yeah, not in order. You could just tell that the truck wasn't maintained very well. Like this truck, you know, we did a lot to it. This truck is super clean, but before, an owner operator had it that didn't do the best job maintaining it. There was a lot of loose wires, a lot of little things, but when we bought it, we knew it was a 20-year-old truck already, so we expected to do some of those things. But I realized the potential of this truck and decided, you know what, it's worth fixing up. It's perfect wheelbase, perfect frame size, everything was great. When you get into breaking the wiring harness, especially here in upstate New York, it can be a headache for you. That's why I recommend is just take a good look at the truck. You know, sometimes I'm looking at trucks and I just don't feel it. You know, there's certain trucks. There was one I was looking at, it was actually a glider, and I don't know what it was. The truck didn't feel right, and I kind of go off my gut sometimes too. A truck didn't feel right and I didn't buy it. So sometimes I look at a truck too, and it's got some goofy grill in it. It's got just lights plastered all over it, and you know, I'm like, it's some weird exhaust, and I literally will turn the page. I'd not even look at that truck, because it's not worth the headache of replacing all those things, and they add up. Those little things do add up. After cosmetics, I mean, cosmetics is not a big deal. You know, you can, if you got the time, you know, fix it up slowly, but those are always something. It's always something to watch. One of the next thing is tires. You notice, like these tires, it's a real nice even wear. You can get a truck that has some goofy tire wear, and that can mean a lot of things. That can mean the frame's bent, twisted, it was in an accident. That could mean it's out of alignment. It could mean that there's some bushings that are bad here in the back. It could mean that something's broken in the frame. There's so many different things that it could mean. And you want to be careful when you buy something like that. A lot of times, that's why dealers will throw brand new tires on, so then you don't know, you know, and you got to be willing to take the gamble. So tire wear is something definitely look at, especially in the front, back. Just kind of run your hand across, make sure everything's nice and even. The other thing I look at too is rust. You know, how rusty is it? Where did it come from? And then try to decide, you know, what's my long term with this truck? Is it worth painting? You know, I get a paint job done for, you know, 6, 8, 10 grand, whatever. Is it worth that, you know, to go through it and get it painted? That's what you got to decide. But a lot of times rusty trucks means, you know, you're going to have more issues with corrosion in other areas as well. So when it's rusty back here, nasty back here, definitely check your cab panels, check your doors and things like that. You could see rust building up in there. I will show you too on some of these Kenworths. You open the door, and right in here, this will be pushed up. So that's something that you want to watch. This truck is, I think, a 99, and you can see it's not bad at all, but it's got a little bit, just a tiny bit that's pushing up right in there. A couple different spots, but again, for a 99, this is not bad. But some are really bad to where when you shut the door, you know, it actually scrapes. That door shuts nice yet. When you're kind of looking at tire wear, another thing to look and rust is suspension parts. You know, some of these trucks you can get cracks in the suspension, and you got to be careful. This suspension here is the 8-bag suspension. So these 8 bags have been bulletproof for us. They're great suspension. Where you got to watch it is, I think it's like the AG 400s, like the Flex Air on the Peterbilts. I think there's actually one over here. So they like to crack, and the bushings like to go bad. You can see sometimes that these right in here, I don't know if you can see that. So right in there, they like to crack. You got to watch some of that. Bushings on these will tend to go out. There's just a little more to those suspensions. Another thing with rust and corrosion is right in this area, on the back panels of a lot of the trucks will start to rust and corrode, and it starts pushing out. So you got to kind of watch that. That's a common issue. So one of the questions that I always like to ask the dealer, and I've learned a lot from, is what has this truck hauled in the past? So depending what it hauled, sometimes it can make a big difference. Sometimes it can even determine if I want to buy the truck or not, because if it has been hauling like corrosive material, or if it's hauling, you know, depending, you can almost tell. You kind of look at the miles and the year, and you can see that, you know what, this truck, it doesn't have any miles on, but it had a lot of off-road use. You're gonna have to check really close on suspension or some of those things that, you know, this truck has high engine hours, or if it's an older truck with low miles, you definitely want to watch some of those things because it could still have high engine hours. You know, the best of both worlds, or the best, is to find something with low miles and high year for a fair price, and that's almost impossible these days. So guys, now I want to get into a little bit of what I look at when I'm buying a truck, because in our fleet, we do so many different things. So I have to find a truck that is compatible, that can do a lot of different things. We have wet lines on our trucks. Almost every single one of our trucks, we put a wet line on. They have to be able to pull a dump trailer, a belt trailer, a tank trailer, a walking floor, and they have to be able to haul 102,000 pounds. On top of that, they have to be able to go out of state yet as well. So they can't be too heavy, they can't be too light. You know, it's a special truck that we have to have. Pretty much any truck will work, but if I get a double frame truck with heavy rears, well, now I'm losing weight. So if I'm hauling by the ton, I'm carrying around an extra ton. So I lose a ton. And if you're getting paid 50 bucks a ton, 75 bucks a ton, whatever it is, now that cuts into your payload, or your profit at the end of the day. So I look for a very particular spec when buying a truck. Over the years, I kind of figured out what works good in our fleet, and my engine of choice is in that 97 to 2002 range. So pre-emission engine, Cat engine. I'm okay with Detroit, but I try to go with Cat because Cat is what we have. They're very reliable for us. 475 Cat, 500 Cat, that's my horsepower of choice. 550 is nice, but 550, I always look at 550 is not going to last as long as a 475 because they build heat. Yeah, if you're not working them, but our trucks are going to get worked. I know they're going to get worked. They're hauling 100,000 pounds, so they are going to get pushed to the limits. So if I can find a Cat 475, the other thing I'll look at is wheelbase length. So getting a 290 or 300 inch wheelbase truck is not very key. So I'm looking for a 240 to maybe a 275 max. Some of our trucks are 275. I don't like to go longer than that because it's tough getting in and out of some of the fields and things that we do. So I don't want to go longer. 275 is about that max. 265, 255 shortest, you know, depending on the size of sleeper or if it's a day cab. One of the other specs is rears. I'm figuring out, like, for best fuel economy, 336s are really good for our fleet. That's kind of what I like to stick with. And I had bought some trucks with higher, but 336s I feel are pretty good for what we do. The transmission, we have all 13-speed transmissions. So I say all, most of our trucks have 13-speed, so we kind of stick with the 13-speed transmission. If we replace a 10-speed, we replace it with a 13. If we replace 18-speed, a lot of times it gets replaced with a 13. That way we keep a 13, we can have a 13-speed sitting on the shelf. We swap that right out and put it in a truck if we have one go down. The sleeper size, I like to go flat top, preferred. just like these. Most of our trucks are flat tops, no big high bunks. Some of them do, but very few. Simply looks and weight savings. So right now I'm in the market for a truck, and I am looking more for a glider truck. A glider kit is basically a newer truck with an older engine in it. So a glider kit with that 6NZ 2WS engine, that's my truck of choice. And that's what I hope to bring in to replace some of these emission engine trucks that I'm getting rid of. I am also working on trying to update or trying to bring in a new truck or two. It's going to be something, it's going to be probably a year or two down the road till they actually come in, but I want to keep always trucks flown in and out. One of the other things that I always look for too is if it has a double frame. I do not like double frames and heavy rears. I will pretty much walk away from a truck if it, you know, I won't even look at it really if it's double framed. A lot of times there's corrosion that goes on in between the frame rails. When we've noticed that the heavy suspension, it really adds weight and not a lot else. The 40,000 pound suspension is done very well for us. So for our fleet, kind of the way we figure is 12,000 pound fronts, 40,000 pounds on the drives, and then you have the trailer, which would be 50,000 pounds on the trailer. So you take 50 plus 40 is 90, plus 12 is 102. That's where we come up with 102,000 pounds. And we have to apply for a permit here in upstate New York. We get that permit and we're good to go. But that is only good for New York State and not for other states. We do have like a ag permit for Pennsylvania where you can haul about 95,000 pounds. Again, these trucks, it's kind of a particular spec that we run. It's not just any truck will work. There's trucks out there, you know, I've been looking at the market. You can get a, you know, 390 ratio. It's a truck and everything would be great, but a 390 ratio, that's no good. You're gonna go down the road at, you know, 65 and you're gonna be pegged right out. It's just not worth it. You can swap them out. We've done that. Depending on the truck, I'd like to find clean trucks. If it's clean and that's the only thing that's stopping it, you know, I'll look at, hey, it's gonna cost me X to swap it out. And so I might still purchase a truck. Well guys, hopefully this helps when you are purchasing a used truck. If you have any more ideas you want to add or anything that you look for, let me know in the comments what you look for in a truck. And obviously guys, there are many other things that I watch. I mean, I go through when I buy a truck, I inspect the truck from front to back. I look at everything I can. And when I get all done, I go in and, you know, negotiate a price. All right guys, well, hopefully this helps you when buying a used truck. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.